when God becomes the answer to our sorrows. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Saturday morning's podcast on peace and not letting ourselves be pushed around anymore. The workload of today's world seems enormous. To achieve a semblance of balance, and above all, to maintain that balance in the future. So, we need to be careful in the future, and even more so in the present, not to entrust our democratic goodwill to just anyone. I say this because around here this concept is becoming very complex to consider. 2 years ago, I was beginning to glimpse a kind of light at the end of the tunnel of general infamy. But now, that same light is dazzling all those who refuse to see it. And it's becoming blinding for those who have been seeing it for so long. It took 2 or 3 days of slightly more arduous adjustment for me to realize that it was time to take the lead myself. So, having just returned from a short week, not of vacation, but of intense reflection on what the future had in store for us, it's time for me to take action. But 2 things are essential: a solid team around me and, of course, money. The latter being the most difficult to find these days. Indeed, my husband and I have decided to follow the path of the soul, the one that dictates not the direction of the bank account, but that of renewal. The very thing that many of our fellow citizens think it's imaginary and not suited to their lives. But don't be fooled, because it's going to happen, and it's certainly not going to forget any of these unbelievers when it arrives on earth. But yes, rebirth must be experienced to perfect and above all create that universal balance that seemed lost until now. Yes, until the directive received by all those fighting to regain peace on earth. A directive from beyond that is almost describable these days, as the celestial light graces us with all its universal signs, from the full blood moon to this month's planetary movements, to warn us that Easter will mean the end of playtime for the invisible decadence of the past. For peace will suddenly reappear, with its 1,001 armies of truth, to show humanity the way. And peace doesn't like to be taken for a fool. It's not the white dove that floats the lights of the visually impaired. No, peace is dressed for war, to lead its great reconquest of the universe, and it must succeed at all costs. So, imagine the pressure of the latter to make you see that death is necessary to come back to life. Not physical death, of course, but the death of everything that made our life patterns a condition for the current imbalance on earth. Peace has now renounced its peace to come and titillate you from within, pushing you to reflect on yourself. That famous reflection that no one dares to do anymore, for fear of having to question everything. And yes, everything. That famous universal God who also fights to show you the peace that comes from the soul, without ever creating death around you. Because seeking peace means confronting your anger, your fears, and your constant "I had no choice" blackmail. And that's where peace comes in. Because we all have a choice, whether to ask the universe for help or the next door neighbor, whichever seems more appropriate to you when it comes to searching for your own words of truth deep down inside. That's where peace comes from. It doesn't come from knowing how to use the current economically and politically unbalanced system. No, it comes from the depths of the soul we so often forget in the existing patterns of life, to devote ourselves to this mind, so demented when it forces us to remain in unhappiness, instead of seeking peace and the truth of who we really are, beings of love and light, creators of the present world, every time we send our harmful thoughts to the universe. So, Maybe it's time for a paradigm shift to open the door to truth for ourselves. And this is becoming urgent, dear friends, all over the world. So urgent that this morning, still digesting a conversation of fear and peace at last, I'm asking you to be in the truth of your daily life. Because only the primary, well behaved fractal will be able to multiply at infinitum, to give the new compositional scheme of our future to the whole of humanity. So, once again, I ask you to see the positive, the good that humanity, from the depth of his soul and not governed by the decay of the mind trained by the ignominy of the current world order, could generate in the future. Simply be at peace, despite your doubts, because the truth is the only thing that can save us from ourselves, with the support of this limitless universe, which every day tries to explain to us that we are the primary reason for our misfortunes on earth. Work on your wounds by invoking the peace you desire, and they will heal effortlessly, because the universe, God, or whoever brings you closest to the whole of which we are a part, will have given you a hand along the way. So, be at peace with all this, for you are all worthy of living in a world ready to open the door to creation, and not the door to destruction at the slightest blow of a desperate belief in the mind, which would be nothing without the love we have for ourselves. This love is available to us only through the presence of the universal soul within our own body as a living being on earth. See you next time, and don't hesitate to support my work, because peace needs thoughts, prayers, and of course money. Because to fight in the very matter of reality, we sometimes have to immerse ourselves in the depths of our own sorrows to be able to overcome them with the help of the Almighty God, the one who knows that when the will to finally be free and without taboos of peace occupies all the space of our daily creation. See you soon, dear friends. Bye bye!